Welcome into episode 44 of the Josh Hendrickson Show. I'm Neal McCready, joined, as you might expect, by Josh Hendrickson, Chair of Economics at the University of Mississippi, otherwise known as Ole Miss. It is Wednesday, July the 16th. I'll give you the weather outside. There are not enough clouds, and it is 407 degrees something. Celsius, Fahrenheit, maybe both. It is absolutely on fire outside. You can't walk outside more than 10 seconds. I went running this morning. Literally, I don't say this to brag. I went running this morning at 6. I didn't get going until 6:40 something. I just ran my standard little 5.5 mile run. It took me to basically noon to stop sweating, and I'm still completely dehydrated. I've drank 4,000 things of water. I've had Propel, Powerade Zero, popsicles. It's absurd outside. So anyway, welcome into the show. I'm glad you were able to make it up the driveway without having a heat stroke.
No, it's that time of year. When I moved here, my realtor said, "You're going to love it here, except in July and August."
So we had an exchange student live with us last year. Today's the 16th, so we're coming up on the 3-day anniversary of when he showed up. From Finland, light-skinned, blonde-headed, shows up. And I told him the hope for months leading up. I'm like, hey, Aka, listen, whatever you can do to get used to heat a little bit, you need to do it. Because I knew he was going to be playing soccer, and they were going to be jumping right into club soccer season. First tournament was in Georgia on artificial turf, and I was like, dude, I'm concerned for you. And I think he was worried about, like, are you worried that I'm going to be a good soccer player? And it was like, no, I'm worried you're going to be a dead soccer player. I'm concerned about the heat, but I never knew how to really convey that to at that point, 16-year-old, soon to be 17-year-old kid. Well, he gets here, and I'm sure he was homesick. He has an incredible family. We've gotten to know his parents a little bit. And so I'm sure he was homesick, and he missed his buddies, and he missed his family and his routine. But sometimes he would just like go for a walk in the middle of the day. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Nobody here does that. And you could tell he was like, I'm trying to acclimate to the heat. And I'm like, hey, it's impossible. But I can remember that finally the heat broke somewhere around Thanksgiving. And he finally told me, he goes, I was convinced you were lying to me. Because I kept telling him it's going to get better. The temperatures will get better. It's going to get more pleasant. Carson, my son, is in Finland right now. He flew to Finland earlier this week. We can talk about that. Delta Airlines, man, you people. Good Lord. Anyway, Carson's there, and he sent me a text this morning. He said, how are y'all? I'm like, we're good. It's hotter than hell. And he goes, it's a little warm here. And I looked it up. It's like 71 degrees. And he's hanging out on the beach out there by the Gulf of Finland. Everybody's just enjoying the sun. And I was like, man, shut up, you know? But yeah, I don't know that anyone ever truly, I don't know that I've grown up in the South my entire life. I lived in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and now back in Mississippi. And I think the whole, oh yeah, you get used to this is total horseshit. I don't think anyone ever gets used to this. And when people do the whole, I love the summers in the South. I'm like, no, you don't. I mean, there's no way you like anybody walks outside on a day like today and goes, man, this is awesome.
I've been here for 14 years. I can tell you that you never get used to it. I have acclimated in the sense that when I first moved here, I don't think that I wore a coat for like 2 years, like ever, anywhere.
Really?
Like, I don't think I ever wore a coat, like even in the wintertime. Like because the first couple of winters that we were here, it was, you know, it's like mild. It was a mild winter, so I mean that played a role in it. But honestly, I don't think I ever really wore a coat ever. And now I'm just like everybody else here in the winter. I'm just like, oh, you know, I'm all bundled up just like everybody else when it starts to get cold. But the heat, no, I've adjusted, but not to the heat. The heat's you can never get used to it.
No, I think I would acclimate to cold. you kind of get used to it a little bit, and you can figure out how to layer clothing and things of that nature. I mean, you can only get so naked.
No,
I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, you
well, it's the humidity too. It's not just the
Yeah.
heat. It's just that like the air just feels so heavy. And that's the thing is if you have that heat, but you have like a nice cool breeze, it's not too bad.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have you would be able to do this as well. When I go run in the summer, I can sort of judge the humidity pretty early in my run. About half a mile in, I can do this deal right on my head. I just take my hand and rub my head and sling. And usually it's a few drops. It's fine. Today it was like there's the Gulf of America, there's the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of all the Gulfs. Just I was like, oh, this run's not going to go well in a couple miles. All right, Austin, I'm gonna get to your super chat in a moment. I am. He wants to know about Epstein. We're gonna get to that. You want to save the All-Star game for the end, or you want to do it now? You want to get this off your chest? I did not know that Josh Hendrickson, mild-mannered, very calm, collected, composed Josh Hendrickson would walk into the house here on Wednesday, the day after the All-Star game, one that the National League won in a home run derby to decide it. I did not know that Dr. Hendrickson here would have so many hot takes and opinions about the Major League Baseball All-Star game. I stopped him on like hot take number 3. I'm like, whoa, save this for the show, man. You want to do that now, or do you want to start with Trump and Epstein and save baseball for the end? Up to you. It's your show. It's why they call it the Josh Hendrickson Show.
We could do the All-Star game. I got to get this off my chest. This is the All-Star game. It is hard for me to imagine that Major League Baseball could do any worse than what they do if they were trying to do worse. Like, I don't think if they made an effort to try to do things worse than they do them, that they could succeed. The All-Star game is ridiculous. Number one, it's an exhibition game.
Yeah.
If after 9 innings it's a tie, like, just shake hands and go home. Like, what are we doing with the home run contest? Like, this is silly. It's silly. And what is it? Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, oh, they won. This is, no, I just, the whole premise of that is dumb. The other thing is like, if you're going to honor Hank Aaron, that's great. Okay.
Sure.
Like, honor Hank Aaron. We don't need to do it in the middle of the game. Like, we don't need to stop the game and just like do a celebration of Hank Aaron and then go back to the game. Like, why wouldn't you just do that at the beginning? Like, just do it at the beginning. Like, oh, we're in Atlanta. We want to honor Hank Aaron.
Makes sense.
Also, the beginning of the game is the perfect opportunity. All the players are all lined up. It's a great opportunity to, like, honor him while all the current players kind of stand there. And
current players honor the past.
Yeah. And instead, it's like, no, we got to stop the game. But the thing that I'm going to get the most hate for.
Oh, my God. This is
the thing that I'm going to get the most hate for.
Oh, here we go. I'm almost hesitant.
They have to stop with this. They have to stop with this whole, like, in the middle of the game, this like stand up to cancer thing. They have to stop. And here's why I say this. Everyone tuned out just now.
Glenn Boyce just called and said,
yes.
Hey, can you get him to change shirts or something?
Yeah.
Just anything.
Here's kind of my fundamental problem. We're still doing all of this like cancer awareness stuff. Okay. But like, I agree, cancer is a big problem.
True.
Okay. We do need to do whatever we can to, alleviate ourselves of the problem that is cancer. I'm 100% on board with that. But every dollar that we spend, like, telling people about cancer could have been spent researching cancer and researching treatments for cancer. And I don't actually know what the awareness issue is now. Like, I don't think I've ever met anybody who's not aware of cancer. Like, I don't think that I've ever met anybody that's just not clear that this is killing lots of people.
I have the hottest of hot takes about this. And it's one that I almost hesitate to express because I think it could. I think at the big corporate level, it could probably get you fired. But I'll couch it this way. I do wonder if big pharma / big medicine, if let's say some brilliant scientist somewhere in, I don't know, Tokyo or Chicago or Minneapolis or Switzerland, I don't know, wherever you would like for the great scientist to come from, comes up with something that basically cures cancer or is a significant treatment for cancer to alleviate some forms of cancer. I do wonder if that person would be allowed to go forward, if that person's research would be supported. I'm not saying it wouldn't be. I am saying that I'm more cynical today, more skeptical today than I would have been 5 years ago.
Well, I do think that there would be incumbents that would want to resist this. The problem is that there would be economic incentives on the other side. So, yes, like if you invented a cure for cancer, you could never reap the entire benefits of, in terms of profit and things like that from coming up with this. You'd never get every dollar of value that you created for human beings out of that. But I mean, Bill Gates didn't get every dollar of the value that he created from, Microsoft Windows or whatever.
Right.
But those economic incentives, I think, would be way too high. Is that and also, it couldn't be public knowledge. But my frustration for this is that like if we're giving money to things, like if corporations are going to give tons of money to things, I don't want them to give money to a cancer awareness campaign. Like if it's like a form of cancer that we didn't know existed. Right. Or if it's a form of cancer that it's like easy to fight, but we don't like, but you got to go get some test or something like that. Okay. Then maybe we spend money to tell people about it so that, we can prevent unnecessary death and
hey,
things like
go
that.
Get screened for this at whatever. Yeah.
But sort of like generic, like, hey, we need to battle cancer. It's like, yeah.
You think?
It's like, I mean, like who's against this? Like who's?
But then
like,
you wouldn't have the stadium full of people holding up their signs and the music and all the stuff, and everybody gets to. I love the one that stands up and he just says, "I stand up for," and he holds up everyone, and I'm like, well, everyone doesn't have cancer.
It's
loved ones. I saw that one.
I know that it's my.
I don't know why
I know it's a hot take. I know people are going to be mad at me for complaining about the cancer thing. But it like all the money that you spend telling people about cancer is money that you could be spending on cancer research. And that is way, way more important because finding treatments and finding a cure are way more important than telling people about it. People know about it. Most people know someone who's died of cancer. Like it, and we know the costs. And so that kind of, I don't know. To me, it just comes across wrong. Like you can tell, like I feel bad for this take, right? Because when I'm watching it, I do see genuine people who are in, like who are either players or who are in the stands, and they are very emotional about it, and it means something to them. And so I feel bad for having this take. But it's just like, I'm just not sure what this is accomplishing, right? Like that, like I'm not sure like what we're getting out of this other than sort of like, telling ourselves
a feel good moment in the
like,
middle of a baseball game.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
You're getting a moment of virtue and hey, humanity, and we're all in this together. Even these gifted Major League Baseball players. All right, here's my hot take on the Major League Baseball game. I only have one. I intended to watch the home run derby. I took Carson to the airport on Monday. He successfully navigated Memphis, got to Atlanta, got to his gate for his flight, got on the plane. His first transcontinental flight of his life. I've never flown internationally. I don't know what it's like to fly to Europe. And so initially he says, because I'm watching the FlightAware thing, and he's just sitting on the tarmac. And I'm like, everything okay? And he's like, yeah, they say they're checking something on the plane. And I'm like, well, good. I want them to check the plane. An hour later, I'm like, you're still sitting there. And he's like, yeah, they're not talking. I don't understand this about airlines. This is my hot take on airlines. I'm going to get to the point in a minute, but why can't airlines just say, hey, you people paid a lot of money for these tickets. Here's what's going on. Yeah, a lot of you are going to miss your connecting flights here in a bit, but here's what's happening. I don't think that's bad business. I mean, I really don't. I don't think that's a terrible thing to go, hey, I understand that some of you might be wondering, hey, why are we sitting on the tarmac for 2 hours and 20 minutes? It's a fair question. Here's the answer. If you went to a restaurant and they told you, hey, it's going to be a 30-minute wait, you'd say, okay, cool. And at 35 minutes, you'd still be, okay, cool. At 55 minutes, you'd be like, hey, what's the update?
Yep.
And at 2 hours, you'd be like, are we going to get seated or not? More than fair. Well, it turns out that, and I kid you not, there was a maintenance truck that had to be moved. And apparently, there was a staffing issue. Shocker. And because there was a staffing issue, there was no one who could move said truck. Apparently, takes a hell of a lot of training to move the truck. So his flight, instead of going Atlanta to Helsinki or whatever, was Atlanta to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Berlin, Berlin to Helsinki, which was great. You got to see all of the airports of Europe. But, and I know this will shock you, his bag got lost in the midst of that transition. And so I'm trying to help. We didn't sleep at all. My point was, I didn't watch the home run derby. I didn't know. So last night, successfully, everything was resolved. He's in Helsinki. Aka's family met him at the airport. Wonderful people. I'm so excited they're there together. They're having a blast. Great. So we finally got to kind of exhale, right? All I wanted to watch was the introductions to the All-Star game. When I was a kid, I'll admit this makes me older than dirt. Growing up in Louisiana, you didn't have the Major League Baseball extra innings package. Wasn't available. You couldn't stream every game. That wasn't possible. And so you saw limited teams. And the All-Star game represented the one game every year that you got to see the best players all at once and all the uniforms. I was 12. Forgive me. I loved uniforms. I still love uniforms. I love to talk about uniforms, grade uniforms. I'm a uniform guy. I'll admit it. And last night in Atlanta, and I know this is old man yelling at the clouds. Today there are no clouds. This is old man just yelling at the atmosphere. It was me just going, and it has nothing to do with the genre of music. I like rap music. I run to rap music frequently. But there's this guy, there are people on the stage, and you can't really understand what they're dancing around. You can't really hear them. I'm like, just show me the players. Let the players line up. I want to, because I'm now to the point in my baseball fandom or lack thereof that I don't know all the players. But I want to see, like, hey, how many Dodgers made the team? How many Yankees made the team? I want to hear the boos of the stuff when, Freddie Freeman gets introduced, when the Braves get introduced. Is there a big Braves? Is it a super Braves thing? Is there which hot young players everybody excited about, right? I mean, that's what I want to see, And you kind of got it, but you didn't get it the way I wanted to get it, and it really turned me off, and I just tuned out. I was tired. I was going to go to bed anyway, but I missed just put the best players on the field and let them play baseball. Let them, and they did the uniforms. It was awesome. National League wore the home whites. American Leagues wore their road uniforms. That's awesome. I mean, that does something for me. It makes it move. I mean, I love that. But they just mess it up. It's the one thing. And I know people are like, well, it's an all-star game. They don't matter. And I'm with you completely. They don't matter. I get it. Maybe this is just part of being my generation. But I remember being a kid and you cheered for one league or the other. Like, it didn't matter, but it kind of mattered. I mean, I don't want them to go play a bunch of extra innings and somebody get hurt or whatever. I get it now. When I was a kid, I'd be like, keep playing. Let's go.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, let's 14 innings, 14th inning. This could be intense. Now it's like, I get it, but I don't know. I've read Ken Rosenthal. I was reading him before you got here, and the players loved the format last night. All that stuff, great. So fine. What I don't have a hot take on the home run derby other than Kyle Schwarber is the MVP. And I love Schwarbs. I'm very sensitive about the fact that he's not a Cub anymore. The Cubs gave him away for literally nothing, which was stupid. And he's a super guy, but it feels sort of disingenuous to be the MVP of the All-Star game when all you did was hit 3 batting practice home runs off of a Dodgers pitching coach.
Well, and that's my thing, too, with the ending is don't do this. Like, don't do this swing-off thing that, just either play extra innings or just end it. Like, just go all in or all out. Just, that's it. Just either, hey, we're going to play till we have a winner.
Yeah.
Or just say, hey, we don't want to get anybody hurt. Great job, everybody.
Well, I mean, I give the NFL credit. Nobody wanted the Pro Bowl to keep being the Pro Bowl, right?
No.
And so they just went, all right, we're going to kill this. Okay, cool. Nobody cares. I mean, the NBA's got the All-Star game's always sort of been this way, but they have a weird All-Star game where the players that make it are typically the best players. They are absolutely the most skilled players offensively. Really, nobody makes the All-Star team as like, hey, Lou Dort's one of the best 5 defenders in the NBA. We're going to put him on the All-Star team. No. Lou Dort's not making the All-Star team. So he's going to impact the playoff series, but he's not going to ever set foot in an All-Star game. It's going to be 24 dudes who can hoop. And none of them are going to like, hey, I'm going to take out one of my fellow superstars here on a drive to the basket in the All-Star game. Nobody wants to do that. There's a code there. And so it leads to this insane scoring deal, which I don't know why. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. I don't want to see anybody get hurt in the All-Star game. And when everybody starts taking half-court shots, I'm just kind of amazed that 2/3 of them go in. You know what I mean? It's like, wow. Shit.
Well, baseball always had, like, to me as a kid, I always thought baseball had like the perfect All-Star game, like, because it was like a real game.
It was.
Like like everybody's, everybody's playing as they normally would.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody wants to have a good game. Everybody knows that there are more eyeballs on them than there are in a typical game. And you can have a real baseball game because it's kind of hard to do like what the NBA does, right? Like you can't, you know what I mean? Like the NBA, everybody just knows, hey, this is just about offense. We're just gonna.
It's an exhibition,
and
nobody gets hurt. Yeah, there's only one way to play baseball. Someone has to pitch, someone has to hit.
Yeah, and the pitchers are not just gonna throw batting practice.
Well, no, because unlike the NBA All-Star game where you don't value defense. Literally in baseball, the game is at all times a battle between a pitcher and a hitter. So it's an equal defense versus offense. The pitcher's job is to not let you score.
Right.
The hitter's job is to score.
So I always thought they did a really good job. And like, I don't know, ever since they tried to make, the All-Star game mean something and all these other kinds of things that they've done, like they just go back to what you did that worked. Like when something is working, don't try to fix it, and just go back to what you did that worked and do it that way. And also like, let's not have like a 5-hour spectacle. No one wants to watch 5 hours.
Mm-mm.
Like, and especially when you have like, it's one thing, like, look, baseball fans might sit there for 5 hours and watch a baseball game. But then when you're breaking it up with all these other things, like, oh, now we're going to take 20 minutes to honor Hank Aaron.
They check out.
Well, and especially like you're trying to grow the game for kids.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm 12 years old and I'm psyched about this thing and I'm watching the game and I'm into it and they come back from commercial and they honor Hank Aaron for 20 minutes, I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
And I'm probably not coming back.
Well,
That's the end.
today's kids can just get on their device and night ball game. Go to YouTube. All right. Josh was going to take some shots at college football, and I was like, no. I'm kidding. He wasn't. All right, Austin, thank you for the super chat. He says, I would love to expand on last week's topic with you guys again. Since last week, Donald Trump has doubled down on trying to dismiss the Epstein file debacle. It feels like MAGA is coming apart. What's next? And then he says, what would you advise that he do next? As a three-time Trump voter, it feels like he is actively nuking the party going forward. This Epstein file debacle might go down as his biggest blunder.
Well, it's really kind of bizarre here because I think there's a variety of ways that this could go. And so one of the things that I kind of said last time, and I said, I think this is a very like low probability event or low probability likelihood. Like the was maybe there's not a lot of there. So maybe all this stuff about intelligence, maybe all this stuff about some of these other dealings, maybe some of that stuff has kind of been blown out of proportion because if you remember, this story was initially a story to go after the Trump administration. Like the Epstein story was actually from much earlier in the 2000s. And then when it kind of gained notoriety was the first year of the Trump term. Like it wasn't really until 2017 that this started kind of becoming mainstream news. Like outside the Miami Herald, I don't know that anybody was really talking about it prior to that. And so at the time, it was really seen as an attempt to like go after the Trump administration. Like these people, like his Alex Acosta was in his administration. He had been the U.S. attorney on the case. And he had said to someone on the Trump transition team who told this to a reporter that the reason for Epstein's light sentence was that, quote, he belonged to intelligence. Subsequently, he was asked to clarify that, and his response was a basic non-answer, which I would, so, I mean, to me, if you weren't told that, that would be the optimal time to come out and say that you weren't told that. But he really didn't come out and say that. He just said, all he said was, I would be skeptical of some of the reporting that has been done. That's all he said.
Okay.
But he didn't deny that he worked for intelligence. Trump's behavior here is the most confusing thing to me.
Yeah, for those who don't know, let me give a little context here. Trump posted on, I guess, his Truth Social, which of course gets carried over everywhere. He is the president of the United States. If he makes a social media post, it is news. It says, my past supporters, all capitals on past. My past supporters have bought into this bullshit. Hook, line, and sinker. I don't want their support anymore. I mean, he's not running again. There goes that. So if you thought he was actually going to try to run for a third term. He writes, I've had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history. He's capitalized the C in country for reasons I don't understand. And he says, and all these people want to talk about, with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems, is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Look, you don't get to do this when your very administration put out phase 1 of the Jeffrey Epstein files back in, was it March? I mean, you don't get to backtrack like this.
So there's a lot here. So, well, this is why I find his reaction to this kind of bizarre, because I didn't find it all that crazy last week. Like last week when they kind of were just like, like we're not going to talk about this. Like, why are we talking about this? When that happened, I was kind of, I kind of just thought like, well, maybe they don't have a lot here, or maybe they don't want to tell us what they do know.
Sure.
And so this is just their way of moving on. But then I thought that would be it. Like, I thought he would never say anything about it, like, ever again. Like, he would just say that, and that would be his thing. And then, that would be that. But I said, like, one of those scenarios is it's possible that a lot of this stuff is blown out of proportion. It's possible that this guy was just uh, that this guy was just a terrible guy who weaseled his way into certain people's lives and then used those people to enrich himself, possibly because they were doing some of the awful things that he was doing. So, I mean, that's entirely possible. And if that's possible, then there is no there. And so you can see why they would be like, well, like, so remember what I said is we have to think about, okay, are they telling us the truth or not? If they're telling us the truth, it could be because of that, like that actually this story was made way more salacious than we thought, right? And it got so blown up out of proportion because if you read like what they actually said, like they said like, oh, they've said like he didn't kill himself. Well, first of all, or that he did kill himself, excuse me. First of all, that is, I I find it, I find it very suspicious, right? That he commits suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I find that very suspicious. I don't find it unbelievable. Like if he is who people said he was,
No, sure, of course.
like I don't find it unbelievable. Okay. But like that was the first thing that they came out with.
But they've got a woman in federal prison serving basically a lifetime sentence for a hoax.
Well, but
I mean, something happened.
Well, so here's the thing. So it's possible if they're telling us the truth that this was just way blown out of proportion. And so they know that they don't really have anything to deliver, right? Like it's just like, this is a bad dude. And like, we can't give you anything. And look, even if that was the case, this is really the only optimal strategy, because if you came out and said, we looked at it and it turns like, if you did it like very like casually, like, hey, we looked at it, turns out, not a lot there. Like people are going to lose their minds. They're already losing their minds, but like Trump is sort of trying to roll out that strategy by like just like being like more and more adamant that like, no, like I'm telling you, there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the other way that they could be telling the truth is, like I said, is that another thing that could have happened is if this guy was really working for intelligence, this like somebody in one of those intelligence agencies, right? Would have been trying, or all of those intelligence agencies or whatever, they would have been trying to get a lot of the damning evidence covered up, destroyed, lost, etc. In which case, it's possible that you can show up and all of a sudden there isn't a lot there, but there's not a lot there because it's been removed. But so now you show up, you look at the files, there's just not there's not a lot, and so there it is. Then the other thing is, the other thing is it could be possible that they're lying, right? Now, if they're lying, what I said is like they could be lying for two different reasons. One is that they've seen it and they don't think that it is in America's interest for them to say what they've seen. Or they also could be lying because, given what they've seen, they actually just want to use this against people.
Can I quote what you said to me in a text the other day?
Yeah.
Pull it up where I can read it. You said, I'm going to need my glasses. Today's like really hey, Neal's getting old day. Actually, I'm better off without him. You said one thing that I meant to mention on the podcast, referring to last week's podcast, about the Epstein stuff is that we mustn't let our distrust of the government lead us toward nihilism. Here's what I mean. A credible political regime can rebut false claims or claims they want you to believe are false by simply stating that they are false. People trust them and thus believe them. But what happens when they lose that trust? A political regime that lacks credibility does not have this power. No one believes them when they say something is false. No amount of rebuttal will produce the results they desire. But if you want to rebut claims, either because they are false or you want people to believe they are false, the more effective strategy would be to flood the system with conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists who claim to have inside information and tell you what others won't say. Doing so eventually leads to disenchantment, as no one can tell what's real or what isn't. There are a number of people who no one had heard of just 2 or 3 years ago who now have enormous internet followings because they're always willing to tell you what is really going on and reinforce every instinct toward conspiracy. It's not crazy to believe that many of these people are part of some sort of counterintelligence operation to discredit others who are actually revealing true information.
Yeah. So if there's damning information out there, basically, there's two things that you can do to hide that damning information. The one thing that you can do is you can actually just come out and say, like, oh no, this is false. And if you have credibility, people will believe you. The other way to do it is you just drown out the damning information with all this other bullshit.
Mhm.
Right. And then you do that. And now all of a sudden, like what it leads to is then people are just like, well, I can't trust anybody or I don't believe anything. And I think that's a huge problem that we have here, because one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of years, which I referenced sort of at the end of that text, is that there are all these people who have kind of popped up on Twitter over the last couple of years who just sort of came out of nowhere. Like you never saw them, you never heard of them before. And they've got like these huge, huge followings. But the more that you listen to a lot of them are just, they're on board with like every conspiracy theory. So they
Yeah.
start out, they have some kind of specialty, right? Like, oh,
Yep.
like my specialty is this. And like, let me tell you, this is what I've seen and here's the evidence and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, like, the next thing you know, that person is on to every single other like conspiracy. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, now you are like, I mean, the joke that I always make is like, when a person is like explaining something to you and it seems completely crazy, and then all of a sudden they start like talking about how we faked the moon landing, like you really gotta like, because look, if you think we faked the moon landing, okay, but then that should be your expertise there, right? Like that should be the conspiracy that you believe. But like, it's very hard to believe that like you believe every conspiracy theory. It's
Yeah.
very hard to believe,
Yeah.
and it's very hard to believe that like you that all of these things are true and that you believe that all of these things are true. And so I'm very hesitant with that. But also, the other thing about this is it's possible that they looked at all of the stuff that they had and they realized like this is really, really bad and we just can't tell people about this. Like we can never tell people about it.
So along those lines, you said there's an old interview. I guess I'm giving people our private text messages, but you don't seem to care.
Yeah.
There's an old interview Kash Patel did with Glenn Beck, where Glenn Beck is talking about John F. Kennedy and the JFK files. Kash says, "You're talking to someone who has seen that stuff." Beck says, "Well, what can you tell us?" And he says, "There's stuff in there that they couldn't release, but what you're looking for isn't in those files." He says this very casually in a way that seems truthful. "I find this entirely reasonable. There's no smoking gun in those files, but there's probably evidence of a lot of incompetence. By contrast, when you see him talking about the Epstein files, he talks like he has a gun to his head. It's a much different demeanor." The only thing I'm going to say about the Epstein files is I know enough about these enemies and stuff. The left desperately wanted to keep Donald Trump out of office the first time. They sure as hell tried to keep him out of office the second time. If Donald Trump's name and stuff, if there was evidence, I'm not saying he didn't know Epstein, he clearly did, but if there was evidence that Donald Trump went down to Florida or down to the island and had his way with 11-year-old girls, guys, we'd know it. On the flip side, as much as Trump hates Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and all the left that he views as the people that essentially tried to kill him a little over a year ago. Again, that anniversary came and went. Didn't talk about it. We'd know. I don't believe there's evidence that Barack Obama, I just don't believe it exists.
Yep.
Now, is it possible that both of those men did that and that evidence has been obliterated from the face of the earth? Sure. But I'm telling you, I don't think in those files there's any evidence that either Barack Obama or Donald Trump or anyone of that type of power, there's evidence, video or pictures or anything, that they went down there with Epstein and did unspeakable things to underage children. I just don't believe it's there. And I don't know why. To me, that's a logical thing, because that would be if Donald Trump could take down Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, like he would. If the left could have taken down Donald Trump with Epstein stuff in 2015, 2016, they would have. They just would have. They didn't on both sides because it's not there. Maybe it's obliterated, but it's not there now.
Well, and the other thing that's weird about the whole situation is like Trump has probably like the best political instincts of his generation. Like he knows where the crowd is. And when he's wrong, he immediately pivots. Like you see it in real time. Like he'll say something, it's not popular, he never says it again. Like he just that's it.
Yeah.
Like he saw that people were like, nope, we don't like that, and he just moves on. Okay, that's the wrong thing to say. And you see the opposite. Like he says something and it's really popular, then it's something he starts talking about all the time.
Yeah.
Like he is very, very deliberate in that. And so that's what makes this really bizarre, because this whole thing is really bizarre because he just keeps like saying like, you know, I don't know why you guys want to talk about this. You know, like this, we got to move on. Like this is over. Like we got to move on. And I think the thing with Kash Patel that just sort of makes me think that, you know, there might be something here, but they just can't possibly like reveal this to people without either revealing remarkable incompetence on the part of the United States government, or
It's
because
national
they're
security of some sort.
yeah. And so if, you know, and because like I said in that text, like that's the thing is, if you can find footage of like Kash like doing that interview like with Glenn Beck, like he's just so casual, like, look, man, I've seen the file. And this is like he wasn't he wasn't running the FBI. There was no thought that he was going to be running the FBI. This was like years ago. And he was just kind of like, man, I know what you're looking for. Like I've seen those files, like what you're looking for, it's not in there. And he just says it so casually
About JFK.
About JFK,
Yeah.
where you're like, and the way he says it, you're like, oh, okay.
Because I mean, I we'll go down the JFK thing for just a second. I do think there's a world. I'm not saying this happened. I don't know. I'm thoroughly have confused myself over the last 6-7 years. I do think there's a world where Oswald did it. They knew about Oswald, dropped the ball, and lied. And it was that deal of once you tell a lie, you start lying on top of the lie. And before you know it, you've told so many lies that it's too deep to dig out. And it just became this thing where nobody wanted to go, yeah, the CIA had their eyes. The CIA, the FBI, they knew about Oswald. There was some connection to Oswald. Oswald may have even been an operative to some degree. He shouldn't have been in position to do that. He did. We couldn't admit that to the American people because we all would have lost our jobs. And so we lied about it. And now as the evidence has begun to come out that, yeah, I mean, they definitely knew about Oswald. They were tracking him in Mexico City. They were tracking him in New Orleans. They knew they had met with him as recently as early November of 1963. These are not debatable facts. And people I do think there's a world where you can say, okay, well, it's been 62 years. By now, not only if it weren't Oswald, we would know who it was. We would literally know the names of the people who pulled the triggers in Dealey Plaza that day. Somebody fired a weapon. It's on video. Blow the president's head off, essentially. We don't know those names. I do think it's fair to go, it's maybe because they don't exist. Maybe it's because it's him. Maybe it's just there was incompetence and the incompetence was covered up.
Yeah, and see, this is kind of this is always the thing that you have to be aware of is whenever you see signs of a cover up, the majority of the time that you see signs of a cover up, this is not because this was some grand conspiracy that people are afraid is going to get out. Most of the time when you see a cover up, it's because people are trying to cover their tracks for the dumb things that they did, and it's just incompetence. Like there are people who did ridiculously dumb things and could have stopped, you know, whatever happened from happening, or could have made whatever needed to happen or whatever, you know. But because they screwed up, now it's like cover your ass time. And so then they just don't, you know, and so then, you know, there looks like there's a cover up, but the cover up is really just incompetence. It's not, you know, a greater conspiracy. And I think that's, you know, that's the issue here is that, you know, I don't really know what's going on because there are lots and lots of stories. The other thing too is like the thing that makes it difficult is that if this was just about, you know, Epstein sexual predator, like I would completely buy that, like, hey, maybe this guy was just running some operation on his own and, fleecing people for their money and that kind of thing. The issue with him though is that there are just all these weird connections between him and these other people.
Oh, there's something there.
And the other thing is that kind of like, I don't want to say this because it's gonna come out wrong, but like kind of like the bigger story is actually when it comes to him is actually like involves the money. Like, where did the money come from? Like, where did all this money come from?
Yeah.
Who, like, who, like who was passing money to who? Like all those kinds of things. Like all of the salacious stuff about it is important, and I don't want to minimize that. But I think the reason that people have a lot of questions isn't necessarily about the salacious stuff. It's about all of this. It's about the sort of money trail. Like, where is all this coming from? Like, why? How does he end up with all of this money? Who is paying him? How does he have all of these connections? Are all of these connections related to people that he's paying? Like, there's just too, like, when it comes to him, the reason that this, like, I honestly think, like, in some ways, like, this might end up being like a bigger, like, conspiracy theory thing that lasts, like, than even JFK, because just because there are all these like little incidental connections to all of these important people.
Sure.
And maybe those just happen to be like, he's just trying to hang around with all of these people, and he's weaseling his way into places where important people are and having his picture taken and all this kind of stuff. But the thing is like, it's never going to go away just because people are extremely skeptical of our ruling class. Like, they think that they're corrupt.
I mean,
They think
Austin
that-
says this,
yeah.
the super chat, he says, in fairness, the conspiracy theory people have gotten a lot right lately.
Yeah.
Chemtrails, chemicals in food, big pharma, cloud seeding. Hey, man, this cloud seeding thing. I mean, this cloud seeding? What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, why do we need to cloud seed? I mean, I'm hand raised guys in the back of the room going, so wait a minute, hold up. So we went all these hundreds and thousands of years without trying to impact the weather. And now we're sending all these things up in to create like this massive rain that was in. It was one of my concerns Monday night. I'm like, he's going to get diverted to like New York or something, and his plane's going to get stuck on I was worried, right? Because of all the incredible rain. When did we start having all these floods in July? All over the country. I get the one that happened in Texas is 3 times in 100 years. So it does happen. But it's everywhere now. And then now they admit, like DeSantis, who seems to be the one kind of completely unwilling to compromise politician out there, which means he has no chance to ever win the presidency. He's like, no, we're not. We got to control this. We can't keep doing this. And people, this was, you said this. This is a Josh Hendrickson thing. And I'm going to get it wrong, but I'm going to get it basically the gist of it right. Months ago, we were told, man, there are no chemtrails. There are no chemtrails. I don't know what you people are talking about. These trails in the sky, these are not chemtrails. And then it switched to, well, maybe they're chemtrails, but it's not a big deal. And now it's, well, yeah, there are chemtrails, but without the chemtrails, we wouldn't be able. But you started with, no, there are no chemtrails. The first time people asked about it, everybody's like, oh, no. You're insane. That doesn't exist. You people are truly paranoid. It's the whole myocarditis thing. Myocarditis. These shots don't cause are you kidding? They don't cause that. Now it's, well, they do cause it, but it's a sign of other things. We keep doing this. And so, yeah, to your point, to Austin's point, this thing comes up. It's been in the news for years. And suddenly the people in power, people that Donald Trump appointed, Donald Trump, the guy who was going to clean the swamp, he was going to come in. He was going to tell everybody. He was going to open up all the files. He was going to tell everybody everything the American people deserve to know. And everybody voted for that. He won a majority of the votes. And on January the 20th that night, you and I both fixed. While other people are watching the national college football game, national title game, I can't make myself flip over to the national championship game because Trump is holding court, basically, signing all these things, talking about all these things. And you're like, whoa, maybe he is going to do it. And here we are 6 months later, and some of the things that he said he was going to do, he hasn't done, and it doesn't appear he's going to do. And now he's like, it's a hoax.
Well, so there's a couple things here. First of all, like when it comes to like this technological stuff, one of the greatest, and by greatest, I mean like hilariously like ridiculous takes ever was Newt Gingrich's take on Jurassic Park. Okay.
I didn't see this one.
Okay. This was really, really old. I don't even remember where I read this, but it like Newt Gingrich had this take on Jurassic Park. And his take was that Jurassic Park like showed like the bias in Hollywood like against technology. Right? Because like anytime that somebody harnesses technology in Hollywood, like it ends in disaster or something like that. And that and this is like a hilariously like ridiculous take to me because it's like no. Jurassic Park is actually like the movie itself is actually a movie about having some humility about what we can and can't do as human beings. And that no matter like how technologically advanced that we get, no matter how scientifically advanced that we get, that like we can still make mistakes and we can still take something that seems really, really cool and have it be something that turns into an absolute disaster. And we have to actually take that into account when we're making decisions. His take was this was just Hollywood being anti-technology. So I don't know, but I think that's relevant to some of the stuff that you were talking about. But I think the thing is like with the Epstein thing, I think the issue for me that's hard to square is, okay, if you take the sort of like there's not really anything here kind of story, and then you take sort of like the wildest, most salacious version of the story, anybody would kind of say like, okay, it's got to be somewhere in the middle, right? It's got to be somewhere in the middle. Maybe it's close to the nothing thing. Maybe it's close to the salacious thing, but like, it's got to be somewhere sort of in between. And I think that's the fundamental problem is that we're not being even given anything in between. Like we're so far, like Trump is somehow almost like off my scale. Like he's almost like on the other side where it's like, no, actually like there's completely nothing here. And I think the problem is there's just too many of those connections. The other thing too is that what people have to realize is somebody told me this once and they said, I think this was kind of during COVID because it was when we kept doing the joke, like, we kept coming on here and saying things like, well, the conspiracy theorists were right again, right? Like every time. And
another dub for the conspiracy theorists, yeah.
And somebody said to me, they were like, I wish I could remember who said this to me, but they were like, do you ever think that maybe like all conspiracy theories are false in some obvious way, but they're like directionally correct? So like a person has information, but if they were to like reveal this information to other people, it would put them in danger. So they reveal kind of as much information as you need to sort of get the idea of what they're talking about. And then they follow that up with something that's just completely insane, so that the vast majority of people are going to dismiss them as crazy. And more importantly, important people are going to dismiss them as crazy. Like, oh, we don't have to worry about this guy. He's out there saying crazy stuff, right? So like he doesn't really know anything. But I do think that that's also an intriguing way to kind of look at it is, and I think this is also why it has staying power. It has staying power because the things that he was doing, okay, like sort of the depravity of what he was doing, we see this in our elites already.
Yeah.
Not to that scale, maybe. Okay. But like we see that in a lot of our elites, the corruption, right? Like his connection to all of these important people who all like say they have no idea who he is, or like that, they've, they really had no connection. Like, oh, that, you just have a picture of like the one time I met this guy or something like that. That like evokes this corruption, which also people see in the elites. The other thing is like it's even the intelligence and the money stuff. It's like a movie, right? It's like you hear like some of those stories, and it just doesn't even sound like it could possibly be real. But on some level, like you're thinking like, but what if it is real, right? Like what if that's going on? But another reason why people are willing to admit that is because of the degradation of our elites. Like no one trusts them, rightfully so.
Yeah,
Rightfully so. I'm
sure.
not,
No,
no one trusts
absolutely.
them.
How could you?
They're incredibly corrupt.
Yeah.
They're incredibly depraved. And so, of
I've
course,
said
people,
I've said
yeah,
for a while, man, the summer of 2020 did damage.
Yeah.
It did damage. You can't do all of the things that they did in 2020, they being Republicans and Democrats. Look back and everybody goes, God almighty, it was all wrong. You were all wrong. And then you look back a second time and go, you knew you were wrong. Did it anyway. Well, because along the things, right? It's the JFK part. Yeah, we knew kind of early we'd screwed this up. But to admit we'd screwed it up, we had to admit we were wrong. And when you admit you're wrong, people are going to ridicule you. They're going to make fun of you. You're going to be remembered in history as the guy that got it wrong. So instead, what'd you do? You doubled down. You doubled down. And then people used it as an excuse for power. People used it as an excuse to enrich themselves. I mean, there's a lot of, it's the human condition. People do bad things. I'm sitting here reading a Wall Street Journal column by Alan Dershowitz. And as I read it, you know what's going through my mind? He's probably telling the truth. 4 paragraphs. I was Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. I know the facts, some of which I can't disclose because it was privileged and subject to court-imposed sealing orders. But what I can disclose makes several things clear. Epstein never created a client list. I believe that. The FBI interviewed alleged victims who named several clients. These names have been redacted. They should be disclosed, but the courts have ordered them sealed. I know who they are. They don't include any current office holders. We don't know whether the accusations are true. The courts have also sealed negative information about some of the accusers to protect them. Neither the Justice Department nor private defense lawyers are free to disregard court sealing orders. The media can and should petition the courts for the release of all names and information so the public can draw its own conclusions. There's also been speculation about incriminating videos taken by hidden cameras in Epstein's guest bedrooms. There are videotapes, but they are of public areas of his Palm Beach, Florida home. Epstein reported the theft of money and a licensed firearm from a drawer in his living room, so the police installed a video camera. I am not aware of video cameras in guest bedrooms. Open records show an acquaintance between Epstein and Mr. Trump many years ago. That relationship ended when Mr. Trump reportedly banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago, long before becoming president. I've seen nothing that would suggest anything improper or even questionable by Mr. Trump. It is clear from the evidence that Epstein committed suicide. What isn't clear is whether he was assisted by jail personnel. That seems likely to me based on the evidence of allegedly broken cameras, transfer of his cellmate, and the absence of guards during relevant time periods. I have absolutely no doubt Epstein never worked for any intelligence agency. If he had, he would surely have told me and his other lawyers, who would have used that information to get him a better deal. He wasn't satisfied with the so-called sweetheart deal he got, which required him to spend a year and a half in a local jail and register as a sex offender. My sources in Israel have confirmed to me that he had no connection to Israeli intelligence. That false story, recently peddled by Tucker Carlson, probably emanated from credible allegations that Robert Maxwell, father of Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, worked with the Mossad. Conspiracy stories attract readers, viewers, and listeners. They are also fodder for political attacks. The Epstein case has generated more than its share of such theories, and there is nothing more annoying to gossip mongers than when stubborn facts or the absence of facts get in the way of a juicy theory. Sorry to disappoint you, but there is really nothing much to see here beyond what has already been disclosed.
Well, I think this is the problem, I guess, too. Like what I was thinking about as I was listening to that is one of the issues is that this has kind of been festering for so long that regardless of what the truth is, it is much harder to, if the truth was that nothing was happening, it would be much harder to prove that, like, there's no intelligence connection, there's no there's no greater thing, like this was a thing that he did and sucked in some wealthy people and, siphoned off some of their money for himself. Like, if that's really the truth, it's actually just like super, super hard to prove to people that that's the truth. And partially this is because they let it go so long without giving details on stuff. Like they let it go for so long without like providing any details, and they let it fester to
Well,
the point
for
where
for
even,
years,
yeah.
right? Not to interrupt you, but for years, the left wanted it to fester because Trump was kind of implicated, and then Trump people wanted it to fester because Bill Clinton went down there, Barack Obama went down there, all these people went down there. God only knows what they did to these little girls.
Yeah, and so I think that, I mean, the but I think that's actually the story too, though. Like to the extent that, like, we can sit here all day and speculate about what the true story of this guy's life was, and we'll never know. Maybe like one day when we're old or something, we'll find something out. But the thing is that the kind of like the story now is, there are a lot of people in the administration essentially saying, like, yep, we're going to open up those files, we'll let you see them, and then they didn't. And then um they acted like it was a big deal, and now they're telling you it's not a big deal. And not just that it's not a big deal, like, it's not a big deal, and like, why are you worried about it? And look, on some level I get it, because look, this gets back to my point, not to go back to my hot take, but my point when I said, like, every dollar that you spend like informing people of cancer could have gone to cancer research. Well, the same principle applies here, is that
Yeah.
like every man hour that they spend on looking into this stuff is a man hour that they can't spend on other things. And they clearly came in with a huge agenda
Yeah.
that they're not sure that they can actually get done in the amount of time that they're going to have. And I think that there is, to some extent, they're looking at this and going, we just don't have time for this. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's possible that they were kind of like, look, we don't have the time or the manpower for this. So, we need to get out in front of that. And I don't know. The other thing too is there's a question of like who leaked that memo, because they've now come out and like, very strongly, said that they stand behind the memo, but the memo was not signed, and the memo was just leaked to the press, which indicates that there's somebody involved who wanted them to have to answer to that and didn't want them to be able to sort of hide behind that, or make people wait just for them to release that statement at some point in the future or something like that. So that's another interesting aspect to it. But the political aspect is like the most confusing aspect to me right now about it, because I don't know that we'll ever find out what this guy was truly up to. But the political aspect is crazy, because they're just like so adamant that like there's nothing to see here, and like, and not only that, but like, why would you care about it? And it's kind of like, well, first of all, like, you were talking about it before. People in your administration were saying, hey, day one, we're releasing the files, we're
Yeah.
going to tell you what we know, we're going to do this. And even, I don't know if you heard this, Megyn Kelly did an interview with one of the reporters that was there at the White House when they got the binders. And the interview that she did, I can't remember the woman's name, but so forgive me, but the her perspective on that day was very, very different than what's been reported. So if you recall, like, basically what we had is we had a bunch of people outside the White House with a picture, and they had like, there was a picture of these people outside the White House, and they all had a binder, and the binder was like the quote unquote Epstein binder or whatever, and they're all smiling at the camera and that sort of thing. But this reporter told like a very different sort of story. So she essentially said that a bunch of sort of like right-wing media types were invited to the White House. They were not really told why they were invited. But then when they got there, they were told that the White House wanted to give them access to the White House so that they could get the White House's message out. And so they wanted to bring them there so they could meet all of the people, in these different departments, so that they would have these kinds of sources, and so that they could, because the administration wants to get its message out, and they figured these people like us, they'll get our message out. And so they invited them there. And so they went and they were meeting with all these different cabinet members. But she said that, like, when they met with Pam Bondi, that it wasn't even about that at all. Like, it wasn't really about anything like specific. It was really just to like meet these people. But that at some point she came in.
This is Liz Wheeler.
Yes, that's who it was.
Okay.
And so at some point she came in and she had those binders, and she said, like, we're going to be the most transparent administration in history. And so, as a sign of that, like, here you go. And then when she gave them the binders, she actually said to them, there's nothing new in here. Like, this is like this, like, this, like what's in here is like most of what we already know, but there's a lot more stuff that is being sent to me. And, as we go through that stuff, we will release that to you, in the future. And then when they went outside and they took that picture where it looks like they're all celebrating that they got the thing, she said, that's not at all what was happening. What happened is the I think it was like the Prime Minister of the UK was there to meet with Trump, and they had to be hustled out of the White House because they were running late for that meeting. And so they got hustled out of the White House out the back door. And when they got hustled out the back door, there were a bunch of reporters who were staked out there trying to figure out what was going on.
Right.
And all those reporters had these saw those like right-wing influencers come out of the White House, and they all had like sour looks on their faces, like, oh, are you joking? Like, they let these people in there, but like I'm out here trying to figure out what's going, that sort of thing. So the smiles and the holding up of the binders and stuff, they weren't holding them up to be like, look what we have. They were basically smiling and waving like, haha, we're here and you're not, kind of thing.
Media wars.
And so the thing, and so the thing
I
is,
know a thing or two about media wars.
And so the thing is that sometimes they get pretty intense. Sometimes people
Sometimes.
tell you to do very dangerous things to yourself. But
very fatal things to yourself.
but when you heard her perspective,
But I mean, who doesn't say that?
Yeah.
Well,
when you heard her perspective, it made the whole thing make a little bit more sense, right? So it was kind of like, oh, this is like an olive branch, but like it, but they acknowledged that there was nothing there, because that was the other thing. They weren't allowed to say anything about what they were doing in the White House. So those reporters saw what they had, and then the reporters ran with that. Like, oh, they brought all these right-wing influencers here. They're giving them all the Epstein stuff, blah, blah, blah. And one of the guys violated the rule and like went on Twitter and like said like most transparent administration in history or something. And like had a picture of the binder or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so
shocker.
And so the media ran with that. And so then when you hear her perspective, it's like, oh, actually, like that wasn't really what happened at all, like in that meeting. And then it makes a little bit more sense. And then you can kind of believe that actually maybe what happened is like she overpromised and underdelivered, right? Like, so she said, oh, like there's nothing there, but we're going to get all this other information. And when we get that information, I'm going to release it. And you guys are the ones that like, I'm going to bring it to. I don't know. I mean, I think because Pam Bondi's kind of got herself in a bind here, because I think that she likes going on Fox News a little too much. Like, I think she likes the attention, and because this isn't the only thing that she's done this on. Like, she's kind of like made bold claims when she goes on cable news, and then all of a sudden when she comes back to the real world, she can't deliver on the things that she was talking about.
Oh, I agree with that completely. I think a lot of those people got into positions of prominence by being talking heads.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to leave that. And then you go govern, and it's different.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like it's kind of bizarre for the Attorney General to be going on the cable news all the time, right? Like the Attorney General has to be like really, really careful about what they say in public and really careful about what they reveal, and she kind of hasn't been.
going to wrap it there. I will tease this for our next show in a couple of weeks. We'll get together. Our tentative plan is to get back together on the 30th of July, which is going to be 2 days before some stuff. And it's going to be right around the start of preseason camp at Ole Miss. I don't know what exact schedules will be, but we'll figure something out. Grind, easily one of our very best streamers and contributors, callers, everything at MPW Digital on a number of platforms, says, I have election reflection questions. Not sure if they fit today's topics. It's more about the Democrats' strategy going forward. I'm about ready to kind of go there too. Like, this is a Trump blunder, and yet the Democrats don't seem to be in a position to take advantage of it. I watched a lot of Wimbledon for some reason, and you win Wimbledon by doing two things: serving really well, and when your opponent makes a mistake in service, you capitalize. You break, you win. I know, earth-shattering, but especially on grass, you have to place the ball in the right spot. And so for elite players, I mean, if you and I went out there and played, it wouldn't matter. But you get my point. Trump clearly misplaced this shot. He did not put this service where he wanted to put it. He put it in a spot where it was easy to return, and return with power, and maybe return for a point, to break service. I'm not sure the Democrats have broken service. It's no question it's a blunder. I'm not sure the Democrats capitalized on it. And so as we approach the fall, we'll talk about that some, among other things. We'll talk about whatever's going on. But I do want to talk about where the Democrats start to position themselves for the midterms and 2028. Let's face it, we're going to have a 2-year election cycle. Trump is going to be a lame duck after the 2026 midterms. He's not running for another term. It's not constitutional, and he's going to be in his 80s. We'll start to talk about the early horse race, because I think it's, on both parties, I think it's fascinating. On the Republican side, you can at least name some names. On the Democratic side, you look at it and you're like, I don't know, man. Like right now, today, it's kind of a weird field.
Can I tell you one thing that I noticed? I don't know how many people have noticed this. You know, Trump wears the hat like ever since he got reelected, and on the side it says 45, 47. But you ever notice that between the 45 and the 47 there's a hyphen, right? And so if you were reading that, it would actually look like it says 45 through 47. Yeah. I just want to leave that there.
Trump is a troller.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he never misses an opportunity to jab.
Well, and I think this gets into what you were just kind of teasing, is that like, it's now been 10 years since he came down, the escalator at Trump Tower, and the Democrats have basically been floundering. I mean, initially they kind of mocked him until, he beat them, but they've basically been floundering ever since. And they don't ever seem to really know what to do. They and they kind of just go try. And to be honest, like, they tried lots and lots of things, and none of them seem to work.
No, and Biden won, and then had an abysmal presidency that will go down in history as a laughingstock of people going, the guy was completely out of his wits. He didn't know where he was. This didn't get a lot of play, and you and I haven't talked about it. We've been going for an hour and 20 minutes now, but the pardon scandal with the DocuPen, is it what they call it?
Yeah. Well, I think this is one of the things, actually, Trump, I think there's another reason why
Trump wants this Epstein thing to go away,
because I think I honestly think that they want the Justice Department to go full on investigation into the AutoPen thing, because look, just based on what the New York Times has reported, and let's face it, the New York Times reporting is going to be as favorable to the Biden administration as possible.
It was a well-reported story, though.
But their story is pretty damning.
It's very well reported. It was well written. It was well reported, and it was pretty damning. And to me, you correct me if I'm wrong, I read that story and said, there's no doubt that Joe Biden essentially went to bed that night. And, I mean, we do the jokes about old man goes to bed. Who was running the country? It's a fair question. And in this case, a lot of people were pardoned by the President of the United States of America. He was still the President of the United States of America on January the 19th.
And this is an extremely important, like, constitutional question.
That's what I was getting ready to go to. We have a constitution that says the president can make pardons. And he was the President of the United States that night. Donald Trump was sworn in the next day. But that night, he was the President of the United States. If he didn't sign those documents to pardon those people, literally with his hand, who did? And who did that? And because if you can't prove to me, and New York Times reporting sort of bears this out, Biden had no idea what was going on.
Well, and there was also there's a line in the story which I'm gonna completely miss it, but there was one line in the story that I found like really, really bizarre, which essentially said that, like, I don't know, he had like one of his close like advisors essentially his like official line, like he sent like an email, and it was, I'm pretty sure, the night before the inauguration, and he sent this email, and the email said, I approve the use of the auto pen.
Yes.
Who the hell are you? Like what?
Yes.
Like, how can you approve? Like, and look, in fairness, it's plausible, right, that these were things that were agreed to, and they were like, do we need a signature? You know, do we really need a signature or not? And he said, and what he was saying is like, go ahead and use the auto pen, but phrased it as I approve. You know, like, I approve.
I approve is I'm in a chain of command here.
Yeah, and so, but the I approve thing, it was like 10:58 at night. Like, I'm not trying to be mean.
No, the
like,
man was asleep.
There's no way Joe Biden was awake.
No, we've documented this. The man was not able. Just like he's my parents' age. My dad turns 83 a week from today. Happy birthday. My dad's still pretty sharp, but he's not able to maintain the schedule that he maintained when he was 53 or even 63. He'll tell you that. So will all 83-year-olds. I mean, there's no way this guy was up at 11 o'clock going through all of these pardons the night before. He's got to get up the next morning. One last day in the public eye. He's got to get up the next morning, greet the incoming president, who he hates, go to the swearing-in ceremony in the Capitol. It's cold. There's all sorts of reasons to believe that there's no chance that he sat in the Oval that night or wherever, the Green Room, the Roosevelt Room, anywhere, and just started signing. But technically, he would have to, when he signs his name on there as the president of the United States, he has to know what he's signing.
Yeah. Well, and the thing though is that, look, if you're going to have this auto pen, there is a constitutional question. Like, to me, like, honestly, to me, there has to be like a very, very clear sort of chain of command for how this thing operates, if you can even use it at all. Like, I mean, I can make an argument that, like, no, like, if you're gonna, if something requires your signature, you're gonna have to sign it. And if you're gonna have to sign 40,000 pieces of paper, you're gonna have to sign 40,000 pieces of paper.
I think a interpretation of the Constitution would bear out that he had to sign it himself.
Yeah, and I think that, well, and that's the thing, is like, all these people are then in trouble because if these are not actual pardons, if they're not legally pardons. I mean, I don't know how the court would handle it. Like, the Supreme Court might say we can't undo this or something, because I do think that if the Trump administration raises this point and really does the investigation and they try to rescind some of these things, it's going to end up in front of the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court's going to decide what has to be done.
Well, and I'll say this as we close again. I want to know who was running the country, who made the decisions, who was it? It had to be someone. It's where I come back to the JFK thing, right? Okay, if it wasn't Oswald, who was it? It was a person that pulled the damn trigger. Who is the person? It's fair to ask that. Who are we talking about? And if it wasn't Joe Biden running the country, and it clearly wasn't, who was it? Maybe it was Jill Biden. I don't know. Maybe it was some of his staffers. I'm not saying it was anything sinister, but somebody was running the country who was not elected to run the country. And that's something the American people deserve to know.
Well, and this is also gets to an important point that, like, I think the auto pen originated with George W. Bush, and I don't think he ever used it. I think Obama was the first one to ever use it. And I think it was created out of convenience. Like, I got to sign a bunch of stuff. Like, let's just, like, do this. And
Christmas cards.
Yeah. But the thing is that
not presidential pardons.
Whenever you introduce like technology, whenever you introduce some new tool, you have to think, how can this go wrong?
Yeah.
And this is a prime example of how it can go wrong, because now if all something needs is the president's signature, there's a way to get it without the president. And that is a very, very bad road to go down.
So the next time it might not be because the president's senile and in bed after having his pudding. It could be because someone did something sinister to the president, and for 2 or 3 days the president is incapacitated intentionally, and someone signs all these documents. I mean, I'm just going down the road.
But it also, I mean, there's long been this rumor that he actually didn't write that statement saying he wasn't going to run again.
I think it's very clear that he didn't.
And I think that, like,
so who wrote it?
Well, but
he didn't. I don't think he knew that statement was being released.
No, and see, that's the thing is, like, regardless of whether that's true, the fact that rumor is out there also begs questions about who had access to the auto pen, right? Because if they could potentially announce he's not running for another term without his permission, what was the auto pen being used for?
Maybe it was helping Kamala make pancakes that morning. I don't know if you heard, but she was just at home making pancakes, and she got the call from Joe. They were just making pancakes. And then she picked Tim Walz because he liked Diet Mountain Dew. And she said, that's going to make this guy likable by Americans, by American males.
The thing that like, to me, the most damning thing that I've heard about Kamala Harris came out like about a week ago, which was, there was this guy and he has like a little TikTok thing, and it's and it's called, I think it's called like Subway Takes or something like that. He just sits with people on the subway, right? Like, and they have to give him like a hot take, and then they had to defend it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's apparently very, very popular in a lot of cities, and it's very, very popular among like young, like left of center people. Like, they really like apparently love this. And the Harris campaign reached out to them. They reached out to this guy and said, the president and the vice president want to come on. They want to be on the show. And this guy did an interview recently where he said that her take was so nonsensical and so bad.
Says it was so confusing and weird that she and the host mutually agreed not to air it.
So you can see why they didn't want her to sit down for 2 hours with Joe Rogan. She can't even give a hot take. Now, mind you, they asked to go on the show, so her entire staff could have brainstormed a hot take that she could defend.
This is a show. It's a popular online series hosted by Kareem Rama. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm intending to. Where guests admit their favorite hot take. This was filmed in the summer of 2024, but never saw the light of day. Her take was really confusing and weird, not good, and so mutually agreed we shouldn't publish it, Rama told Forbes reporter Stephen Bertoni in an interview posted on Monday. The interview was so painful that Rama feared that if it had aired, he would be blamed for Harris losing the 2024 election. Her take was that bad, Bertoni asked. It was really, really bad, Rama replied. It didn't make any sense. Rama offered the former vice president's take with an almost concerned look on his face. Bacon as spice. Harris's team had told producers that the California senator's hot take would be taking a stand against removing one's shoes on airplanes, Rama said. But when the interview started, Harris instead surprised Rama with a different take. Bacon is a spice, Harris said, according to the New York Times, after obtaining the unpublished video. New York Times on a heater. Rama, who is Muslim and doesn't eat pork, responded, "I don't know," after appearing to be taken aback. But Harris doubled down. "Think about it. It's pure flavor," Harris told him, explaining how bits of cooked bacon could be used to enhance a meal like a seasoning. Rama asked if he could use beef or turkey instead before pausing the interview and telling her he doesn't eat bacon. He then asked if they could do the pre-planned segment on taking shoes off on airplanes instead. But Harris instead decided to declare her love for anchovies on pizza after speaking to an advisor. Rama then quickly wrapped up the interview awkwardly. "Well, I'm 100% unsure on both of those," he said with a forced laugh. Harris's office, of course, did not immediately respond to request for comment.
So I have two things here. Okay, number one, how can you be so bad that you can't even come up with a hot take? Like, you don't even have to come up with it yourself. You have an entire staff of people. Somebody has to have a hot take that you can defend. Somebody has to have something that you can say that will be funny or endearing or something like that.
Yeah, pull your top 20 people together and say, y'all come up with something.
The other thing is like, okay, I love how he's like, oh, I knew I couldn't release this because it would like damage her campaign. Like she might lose the election. And it's like, if you think that this woman's hot take was so bad it was going to cost her the election, but then you're going to increase her odds by hiding it from people. Like what? Like I don't understand the logic there at all. Like,
I mean, she's on to something with people taking off their shoes on an airplane. But I guess she was afraid she'd offend.
Yeah. She probably did. They probably did a poll and found out that like her supporters are more likely to take their shoes off on an airplane. I mean, seriously, it's so ridiculous.
Bacon is a spice. No, it's a protein. It's literally meat. It's not a spice. It's meat.
So ridiculous.
It is. It's meat. I mean, you get it off a pig. It's meat. It's not a spice. How the hell is bacon a spice? I mean, there's nobody, and I'm not saying it's not even about her. There's nobody in her circle. Her circle was so kiss ass that nobody could go, excuse me, Madam Vice President, but that's idiotic. No. And then anchovies on pizza? I mean, I don't know. A hot dog's not a sandwich. Can we, what are we doing here? That woman became the vice president of the United States. That woman was a heartbeat and a feeble heartbeat away from being the president of the United States. Children, you can do anything you set your minds to. This is America. I mean, this is the American dream, young people. It's alive and well. It's alive and well.
It's scary.
That woman was a feeble heartbeat away from being the president of the United States, from carrying around the nuclear codes. That's take one. Take two, all the Democrats, listen, people, I'm just telling you, you have no one to blame for Donald Trump but yourselves. You ran Hillary Clinton. You ran Joe Biden and Kamala Harris against him. That is like, hey, how do we beat the Dodgers? I don't know. Let's send out the Pirates. Who are the other worst teams? I don't even know. I'm out on baseball. Pirates, Sacramento State, and the Oxford Little Leaguers. Good luck. You get what you deserve at that point.
But this is a good segue to Grind's questions, because the answer actually is to the Democrats' problem all along was who Joe Biden used to be.
Yeah.
And they've run all those people off.
Yeah.
And that's their problem.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks to everybody in the stream. Appreciate you very much. Have a great rest of your month of July. We'll talk to you at the end of the month. Until then, take care.